This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
It is 6:01. I will now call to order the March 23rd meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move on to public hearings. First order of business is a request for determination of applicability for 20 and 30 Ballard Street for confirmation of the wetland boundary. I understand we have an update.
Yeah, so Commissioner Ryan, Commissioner Weeks, and I did conduct a site visit today assessing the revised flags. So if you all can see these, several of the flags were revised from the original delineation that we received. This RDA we're just confirming a delineation, just because it's been a minute. So the flags closest to the road in the 30s around here were the ones that I would say we initially had the most concern with. We were out there with a soil auger and just kept taking plugs. There's very few vegetative tells here. We're in a previously mowed wet field, and obviously everything looks quite wet right now. So we're really using soil as our essentially our only indicator, and somewhat slight variations as we move up the slope. So we just didn't feel comfortable, or I would say I didn't feel comfortable with the line, particularly in this range where it is currently set in the field. As we got a little higher up here, and the slope got steeper, 25 looked tighter, 24. This area where my cursor is seemed very solidly upland.
So you're saying, Ava, even the revised version you were still uncomfortable with?
Yes.
Okay.
So our next, do you have the commissioners have anything to add?
No, like I said, there's not enough plants items to be able to see anything. It's all been mowed pretty much to the grounds, and you just can't see anything.
Yeah.
When you say you're not comfortable, is it like one way versus the other, or is it just kind of like, I don't know, because it's so indistinct?
No, I would say that I feel like we found hydric soils like a good contour line or two higher up the slope here.
Right. That was the issue.
Yeah. So we were out there with the Moncelli and we weren't doing full soil pits, just poking with an auger. But so we do have another site visit scheduled for 9 a.m. this time with the wetland scientist, with Ryan. Commissioners, of course, welcome. So my hope is that we can go back and forth, pull a bunch of plugs and see if we can get it to a confident place with this line.
And it does seem a bit odd that it would cross the contours as sharply as it does and drop off, and that you wouldn't see it more consistently across.
As in like here versus here.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funky. I mean, there are a couple different wetland features going on. So this area is low wetland bordering on off screen here. If you can see where my cursor is moving, is a stream. And then there's kind of the marsh, not true floodplain. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But perhaps serving as floodplain BVW that extends here. And it is interesting. It really climbs up the slope quite a ways. And then over here we have a stream of sorts. I guess that was something we had talked about back in, I'm just remembering this as I'm saying it to you, back in, when did we have that site visit? January, before everything was under snowpack, determining whether or not this was actually BVW or if this was a stream.
Yeah.
There's certainly some channelized flow happening. But
Kind of comes from out of the ground though. It's not like it's coming from the top of the hill. It just pops out there.
Right.
But it does look like a channel.
Which,
What are the soils like? I'm just curious, not color, but texture.
like loamy sand.
If it was clay, you know, then that would explain some of these water walls in different spots, but it should be groundwater driven.
Yeah.
Pitch to that side, whichever direction that is.
Yeah, and definitely also definitely some modified soils too. I mean, we were at one point, right, we got below the plow layer and then had a buried A horizon below. So yeah, we're doing the best with what we got from an altered wetland system.
Where is that buried horizon? Is that within areas that are flagged or outside?
We saw like a bright A, so like a
Okay.
upland A, buried A, but well under, like
Okay.
about a foot below.
Yep.
But outside of the wetland line.
That's good.
All right, so hopefully we should be able to, hopefully we'll have a line for you that we feel comfortable about. The site visit scheduled for Wednesday at 9.
So we're looking for a continuance?
Yeah.
Motion to continue to April 13th at 6 p.m.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So carries. We have no requests for certificates of compliance this evening. Moving on to enforcement actions. Do we have any updates, Ava?
We do not.
All right. Moving on to open space updates. Anything there?
So Borkowski parcel, I was out, it was a big site visit day for me. I was out this morning with Walker Metcalf and Matt Gasper of 2 trail builders. They work together on trail building projects. And we were assessing some of the existing tread to establish whether or not we could move some of the proposed new trail onto existing tread. And to summarize what we found, this bottom section of green, which is existing trail, I just colored green for ease of seeing. Existing trail that we were intending to leave open, I believe initially, is doable as our new climbing trail with some added switchbacks along the course of it.
Mhm.
So that would involve removing this bottom section, basically the first 3 switchbacks or depending on how you count them,
Okay.
of the trail. And then we spent quite a bit of time up here in this nest of trails, and really couldn't find a better approach. This green trail is also existing trail that we considered moving, trying to locate the new trail onto, but it crosses this downhill trail several times, and just doesn't seem like as good of an option. And also it doesn't get us much because the downhill, so this is one of the downhill trails, right? And it would be hard. We'd have to get like a switchback to connect. It would maybe buy us a switchback. Do you see what I'm saying? At the same time, while we were out there, we talked about the possibility, and this was something Scott and I had discussed a while ago, but I don't think it actually ever made its way to the trail builder, to Walker. The possibility of actually building the new climbing trail over on the existing trail / currently, mostly closed. These switchbacks are mostly closed due to the microburst, but was existing trail, and we have it on our map that we sent to Natural Heritage. So the possibility of actually doing the climbing trail over here, avoiding all of that. We walked over here and saw the base of this, but they're going to come back and evaluate this.
Okay.
I think in some ways this would be, if they feel as though the grades are suitable, this would be a really phenomenal option because it would get us out. This is my perspective, at least. I'm curious what the commissioners think, but it would get us out of this nest
Sure.
of trails.
Mhm.
And I think, with some added switchbacks to make this climb better could be a very good faith effort showing to natural heritage that we're really trying to stick on existing tread.
Mhm.
I was just grinning because like I'm a road biker, so that doesn't seem like that far away for me. But for a mountain biker, is that's all the way over there? We're not going to go over there to climb.
I don't
Or
think
is that
that's
not
the
something
issue. Yeah.
that people would understand and they would go out of their way to
I think
climb
as
there.
long as it's a good trail,
Yeah.
the distance is not going to be the factor.
Okay.
It is interesting. I've definitely been learning about some cultural pieces like several times, particularly because where the trails get really dense is in this area. And this map
Mhm.
doesn't even show them all because there's trail on these
Yeah.
closed parcels. And I've now said to several different mountain bikers, like, well, could we just stop the uphill trail here? And they're like, not at the top. You can't stop the trail before the top.
Yeah. Then how are you going to zoom down the whole thing?
Right. So it's definitely there's been some cultural learning for me. One thing that when we were exploring in this area to try to figure out what our options were this morning, we noticed there is active trail building happening here right now. And we talked about that, both Walker and Matt do trail building themselves, in their professional capacity, but also have volunteers and various times. They really suggested putting up a sign, both at the front of the trailhead, but then actually like tack it to some of these folks as these folks are building jumps.
Yep.
Some features, just to like tack up a sign on their features that says, like High Trail Builders, the Easthampton Conservation Commission would like to be in conversation with you. Please contact us. This number, not saying what we don't have to decide what we want to do should they decide to contact us, but just to give them a sense that we are, as the owner and manager of this parcel, we do have eyes on it because they're really doing a substantial amount of trail building that is definitely, from my perspective, contrary to our goals with this parcel.
I wonder, Ava, if it would be worthwhile to also add to that note that we're in the process of working with NEMBA to improve the trail system, and rogue trail building could get in the way of our permitting.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
To make that a little clear, I don't think there'd be any downside to that.
No.
And
Excellent.
anybody who's going to be willing to reach out is, I think, going to respond positively to that and go, oh, okay, we should stop.
Great.
Especially if we mention that we're working with NEMBA. I
NEMBA.
think that'll carry some weight, that this is a legit effort that they could be getting in the way of.
Yep. And I think it could work one of two ways. I think they could either get in contact with us and then, would love to ideally, work with them we certainly have some needs for volunteer help out here. Or it might honestly just spook them and they might just stop.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think is okay either way.
Yeah. People probably just have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no maps out there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's our ownership is stated on that one sign on
Yep.
Bernie Ave, and other than that, cool.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm
Sounds
not
good.
necessarily hearing that this instance calls for it, but can we do a cease and desist when our own opens?
It would be against us,
Yeah.
so
Right.
we can't,
Can't send it to the.
Yeah, I guess you
we don't know who's doing it.
And I will say it does seem honestly like the other cyclists don't know who's doing this either.
Yeah, which is a little bit mysterious. Usually they have a pretty good sense of who's
Right.
out there, but
Matt suggested that perhaps this was a younger trail builder based on the style of build.
okay.
Detective work.
Recognized his former self.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a particularly gnarly looking jump. They were like the nails sticking out are a really nice touch.
Okay.
So you think that was built in the fall?
I think it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's current. I don't know if they've
Before
been
the
out.
snow, before the
Yeah,
snow.
right. I don't know if they've been out there yet this spring, but I think you all have seen some of these before. But there's some pretty substantial pieces out there.
Yeah, like when I was walking up there, like in 2020,
Yeah.
and I came upon that, like, I came upon that feature and there was like Home Depot buckets and
Yeah.
like tools around, and I'm like, they must be behind the trees, like.
I do think they store those, they do keep those tools in the woods. They just
Uh-huh.
leave them there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like they heard me coming and they just went.
Came upon Richland Lombard, who today actually in the woods with these folks.
Okay.
Richland Lombard, who was looking for a tool that he had left in Barcelona in the fall.
It couldn't have been him doing it.
No. He had choice words to say about these trips. So, anyways. All right. So that's the update. That's the update on the Rogue Trail building. I do think I'll put together those signs and laminate them and then just staple gum them onto their features. And I think that'll send at least somewhat of a message.
It happens.
Everyone knows anyone with a size large mountain bike that they're don't want. I think I need to start checking out these areas personally just to see what it's all about.
Yeah, I would be careful on these. I mean, I don't know.
I would
Yeah.
I would not go over any features.
Yes, yeah. I learned today. I learned today that from the cyclists from Walker and Matt that there have been some serious injuries out here in the decades past.
Oh, I heard somebody that is totally like
Paralyzed. Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah.
All the more reason for us to build better, sustainable trails out here. Okay, so what I talked about, the timeline I talked about with Walker and Matt, we talked about a 3-step scope for them. And I do think it's time to actually get them under contract to do a little bit of design work for us here. Mostly so we can, I think they're doing really valuable service and they've already done quite a bit of pro bono work with us. And also, just to keep this going at a clip here. So I'm looking for a 3-part quote. The first, I'm looking for their initial design, either for, the combination of the green and then the yellow here, or if they decide that this path over in the northern side is a better approach, that could be it too. And we're looking for that initial trail design to include the new switchbacks they're going to add, like actually be, detailed enough to that extent, and any water diversion features they're going to build. So any, water bars or slope reversals, because I know that was something Natural Heritage was particularly concerned about.
Can you remind me who they are with? Are they with NEMBA or are they with
So they
somebody?
so they are NEMBA members, but they run a trail building business.
Uh-huh.
So this design contract, I think, will be well under 10,000. So we can do it with procurement law just directly with them, knowing that when we actually go to construct, we will have to go out to public bid. But my guess is these guys will bid on it. So did you have more questions?
Yeah. Being involved in design stuff disqualifies somebody from being involved in construction if it's under chapter 30, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, both.
But I guess that's something to check out with.
Yep.
Yeah. My understanding of the rules that professional services isn't covered by the under 10, 50, 50 and above state public bidding law.
Okay.
Chapter, I always forget 30 or 39.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
39.
Yeah, but then those chapters are for like site construction, basically non-building construction. But yeah, so bidding, so those are rules under state law of under 10, 10, 50, 50
Yeah.
and over are for actual construction projects,
Which this is not.
which this is not, right? But I think being involved in design disqualifies somebody from being involved in construction for ethics reasons under state ethics law. But I don't know
I've
that.
not heard that, but okay.
Is this for all construction or is it for-
Any construction. Yeah, anything that's covered by state law, construction wise.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's good to know.
I'm
Check.
not even sure if this would
Is it-
necessarily fall under 3039 or under the design services piece, or if it's just something separate.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think for design, like, it's fine and flexible, but for construction stuff, when we're under state procurement law for that, but the city might have its own rules on top of it, but
Okay, I will definitely go talk to Mike Owens about that because that would be a good thing for us to know before we get
Yeah.
in deep here.
yeah.
Um,
I would
Yeah.
Say conservation works, I did the design and the construction for the Palmer Meadow.
yes, and how did that
Trails.
one work?
But
I,
that wasn't a city project, right?
I think probably.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I'm
not.
thinking of different.
Maybe the city was involved for parts of it or not for other parts of it. I mean, that would be a way to deal with it, would be NEMBA, like NEMBA, we hire for design and then, contracting is with NEMBA or something like that. And they hire whoever it is. Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I'm just kind of running at the mouth here at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear
but
you.
yes, these are the things going through my head that could potentially be
No, I'm not.
problems at some point.
Yes, no, and I appreciate you flagging that early.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you're right. Conservation works like this kind of thing happens with trail building, right? Like people design trails and then build trails.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm curious, I'll figure out what the precedent is for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. And I'm wondering if maybe they're just under one contract, if that's normally how you do it. If you just do one contract for design
Oh, yeah,
and
like a
construction.
design build. type of-
Exactly.
Yeah,
Then we probably would have to bid it from the start.
Right, and we don't have the funding set.
That might not be an issue. You could ask Mike Owens this too, if we do need to do it that way.
Yeah.
To allow them to be able to bid on it. We might be able to bid it with alternates and the construction would be an alternate that wouldn't get activated until the funding was in place.
Okay,
So it'd essentially be 2 phases, but you'd have to win the whole thing from the start.
okay. These are really good things to look into. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so if we can get them begin this 3-phase process of putting together a trail plan for us, determined based on what these procurement conversations turn out to be.
Mhm.
My hope was a sketch that or a design that includes where they're putting new switchbacks and all their water diversion features that they're gonna add. And then the next step would be that we're gonna have our wildlife biologist, we're gonna have Steve Liberty out there with them. And he'll do real-time evaluation and then they'll move it as needed. And then the third step will be the final, like what I was calling, shovel ready designs.
Mhm.
cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, great. So I had asked them for that quote by April 9th. And I'll move on figuring out the procurement piece so we can have that figured out.
Okay.
And I should have an answer for you by the next meeting. The one other update I have for you just is we were taking a look while I had those guys out there. We took a look at the streams. Let me see if I can.
Maybe we should build a jump over the streams.
I mean, yeah, why not?
So here's one of the locations where we need a stream. And we were looking at that maybe it makes sense because currently the trail follows the fall line, that we could do something like, this was their suggestion, that we could move the trail up onto the slope here and then have it cross here.
To cross a bit higher.
Exactly.
Sure.
And let the fall line just be the fall line, let the water keep flowing where the water wants to flow. And that's like our small little bridge. That'll be our easy project. And then our larger bridge is our big diagonal crossing, which is here, right? And now that snowpack's gone, taking a close look, I really do think bankful width is quite large here. Because it's just clearly all sort of the floodplain of the river.
Are you measuring it way back to where those people are?
Yeah, so I am, yeah.
That would not be thankful because you've
Okay.
got woody vegetation in there.
Okay, so
It's gonna be in front of the trees.
in front of this tree?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Because it's not your floodplain, it's right before it spilled onto the floodplain.
okay, that's
That's when the banks are full, literally, before they overflow.
before they overflow.
Yeah.
Okay. So this area. So there's obvious evidence of rocks that have been placed there by the stream, right? Like here.
Those could just be rocks in the soil matrix that have been
Yeah.
left behind by erosion.
I mean, I would think, Dan, tell me if you would agree, but I would think it's probably like here to here, because it's gonna be in front of your trees. Don't you think?
Yeah, probably something like that. Just like
And
there's
those
all,
trees are hanging right on the.
It's hard to
right on the
tell
bank
without
there.
going out there and looking at it, but,
yeah.
and this feels like it's been modified by traffic.
Yes.
So I would look further up and down.
Mhm.
But I would say it's like this edge where the leaf litter is on that side and whatever the same is on the other side. It's probably narrower than,
That's a much narrower.
much narrower than
That's a
what you
much
were
narrower.
showing there.
Okay, that's a good thought then. And the commission, well, I kind of, please,
What day is
Today.
that picture? Oh, that's today. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really had any crazy storms since last fall, so, and so it'd be like right at the edge of the leaf line
Yeah.
would be where I would be looking at,
right at the edge of the leaf
Yeah.
line. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once I get a meeting, site visit scheduled with the NEMBA folks, it would be great to maybe have one of you.
Yeah,
Should we do that? Should I try to schedule that for a weekend day? Would that be?
if that works for you, I can
Okay.
go out on a Saturday with you.
Okay. All right, great. Excellent. And then we can figure that out. Because I was out there with them, we were imagining a
Yeah.
floodplain spanning bridge, but we
Mhm.
don't need to do that.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
It could be kind of epic.
It could be, but also epically expensive.
I think it was a jump instead of a bridge.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like if we got where the trail has impacted the edge of the bank there, we could almost get a core log and just kind of put it back where we thought the bank wanted to be.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then build on behind it,
Yep.
plant it, and then kind of reestablish that bank line and then kind of go over it.
And go over it. Yeah.
Yep.
We just designed it. It's done.
Whoa. Still think we should go out there with whoever's gonna.
Oh, yeah,
actually
yeah,
build it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will put that together and schedule that for a weekend day. Excellent. Probably at some point in April.
I probably cannot go with you on any Saturdays in April. I'll touch base with you.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, that's all I have on Borkowski. Aaron Newton also gave permission for his property to be included. So Natural Heritage has that. So that was one.
Sorry, who is this?
This was the property. This is the property owner on the very edge of the parcel. That was one of the notes in the letter that there's little pieces. This
Okay.
trail extends onto his property. So that was just one of the incomplete parts of the application. That part is settled.
Great. Moving on to compliance updates.
Yep.
Right. What do we have?
The one I have an update on is Nashawanek Pond embankment, the retaining wall. So they did have their pre-bid meeting. And as you might have seen in the ongoing project updates document, the contractor did believe that this tree and this stump would need to be removed as part of the construction. So those two, I think, I have in the minutes from when we permitted this that they were possibilities as potential removals. But
Is that tree even
What
alive?
item are we on here?
I think it's in
Q.
You, way up there, huh? Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, we've done a lot since then. Okay. Continue.
so that's really the only update I have. They're hoping, I don't have the bid schedule off the top of my head, but it's moving forward and should go into construction after Lady Slipper season this year.
It looks like the base of that tree is pretty compromised.
It sure does.
Yeah, I
If
don't.
it was clear or not.
Yeah, they were like, do we need extra permission from the Conservation Commission? I was like, it's in the minutes that you were going to do this. And it's from a conservation perspective, these trees seem ready to go.
They are doing some planting as part of that, right? I
There's
forget what it looked like, but I think there was something.
yeah, I think there was something.
Stabilized.
Yeah, and we were definitely concerned, and we'll see how that unfolds. There were definitely concerns about how they're going to get the soil stabilized. If you recall, in the different steps when they're going to be getting so much tread, we discussed a few different options.
Okay. I'm just in seeding. I can't recall.
Yeah. Lightly compact seed with semi-shade seed mix, cover with erosion control blanket. And that's the only compliance update I have.
On to general business, we have meeting minutes to accept from March 9th. Have folks had a chance to take a look at those?
Yep.
Any further comments?
Deb, look at them.
She did.
Okay.
Anyone care to make a motion?
Move to accept the March 9th minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we'll move on to our wetlands ordinance presentation and discussion.
Excellent. Yes. Well, welcome. Thank you for your patience. We are now going to introduce the draft Easthampton Wetlands Ordinance, which is a draft of, so the Easthampton Conservation Commission currently regulates under the State Wetlands Protection Act. And we have been without a local wetlands ordinance for quite some time. So this attempt is to remedy that fact. A brief bit of backstory: the Easthampton Wetlands Working Group has began this draft back in 2022, and after 3.5 years of work, has a draft that they are pleased to present to the public. The Wetlands Working Group was motivated by two major things. The first was the shortcomings that the Easthampton Conservation Commission experienced in the Wetlands Protection Act during the real post-pandemic boom, the development boom in the city. So there were a lot of projects in front of this commission, some of which they felt they could not adequately protect the wetlands given the constraints of the act. And then it was that's where we were coming from. And then looking ahead to the future, the Wetlands Working Group was really driven by, anticipation of future flood events from our changing climate. As we know, we expect in this ecosystem. So wetlands ordinances are quite common across the Commonwealth. There are 202 municipalities that have adopted wetlands bylaws or ordinances, bylaws for towns, ordinances for cities. And even when the Wetlands Protection Act was written back in the 1970s, it was very much written with the intention that local towns should adopt more stringent wetlands regulations should they see fit as best to serve their individual communities. So that was really enumerated in the original act. So now we're going to go through some of the additional protections offered by the Easthampton Wetlands Ordinance. And we'll go through those in contrast to their counterparts in the Wetlands Protection Act. So we're going to go through a couple different resource areas, which are different wetland types that the Conservation Commission is tasked to protect. And we'll start with bordering vegetated wetlands, which are, your marshes and your forested swamps, all different kinds of wetlands that border a flowing body of water. So that border either an intermittent or year-round stream. And currently under the Wetlands Protection Act, bordering vegetated wetlands are protected as defined by their soils, plants, and hydrology. However, vegetated wetlands, so those same kinds of marshes and forested swamps that don't border a stream are not protected under the Wetlands Protection Act at all. And if you are proposing a project currently under the Wetlands Protection Act where you are going to impact wetlands, where it's unavoidable that you impact wetlands, there's a 1-to-1 replication requirement. So if you impact 300 square feet of wetland, you must replicate another 300 square feet. Under the Easthampton proposed ordinance, we essentially add in a resource area of isolated vegetated wetlands, offering them the same protections as bordering vegetated wetlands. They function in the same ways. They clean our water, they control flooding, they do all the same things that bordering vegetated wetlands do, so they should be protected as such. We also increased the replication requirements for total wetland impacted, both bordering and isolated, to a 2-to-1. So now if you impact 300 square feet of total, let's say you impact 150 square feet of isolated, 150 square feet of bordering, that's 300 square feet impacted, you'd have to replicate 600 square feet. Our next resource area is land subject to flooding. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, we establish floodplains of major streams. That boundary of the floodplain is set as the 100-year floodplain from the most recent FEMA map. Up until very recently, we were still regulating off of maps from the 70s. Most recently, we have draft preliminary FEMA maps. But it's been a long time of regulating off of old maps. And for isolated land subject to flooding, so just depressions in the landscape that hold significant amounts of water in heavy precipitation events, it's calculated under the Wetlands Protection Act using outdated precipitation numbers that represent a very intense rainstorm from 50 years ago, which we know is not what a very intense rainstorm of today consists of. So under our local wetlands ordinance, we propose that floodplains of streams are set as the 500-year floodplain, or the applicant can calculate the extent using a hydrological model with future climate data, so future precipitation estimates to calculate a full hydrological model of the area. The 500-year floodplain gives land subject to flooding. It gives our wetland resource areas room to manage, even the most extreme weather events, and also to know that, our 100-year floodplain now, our 500-year floodplain now might be our 100-year floodplain of, a decade from now, or honestly, we don't know. So it gives us a little bit of wiggle room to adequately protect the full breadth of the floodplain. For isolated land subject to flooding, it's a very similar calculation procedure as currently exists in the Wetlands Protection Act, but rather than using those 50-year-old precipitation numbers, we ask you to use future precipitation estimates. So, just kind of a common sense approach to adequately predicting how much water a given piece of land will hold. The next resource area is intermittent streams. So these are streams that only flow for part of the year or at some point run dry under the wetlands protection, or have a small floodplain, or sorry, have a small watershed. A stream cannot be considered perennial, even if we know that it runs year round, if it has too small of a watershed. And so currently under the Wetlands Protection Act, intermittent streams are only protected downstream of wetlands, which is a bit of a catch-22. So bordering vegetated wetlands are defined by a stream running through them, otherwise they're intermittent. And intermittent streams are only protected downstream of that bordering vegetated wetland. We know that streams can be ecologically vital regardless of whether or not they just flowed through a wetland. So the proposed wetlands ordinance will protect those streams along the full reach of the stream, so including that up gradient of wetlands. It'll imply the same protections to all streams regardless of their relation to wetlands. Vernal pools, a very seasonally relevant topic right now. Vernal pools under the Wetlands Protection Act are not protected unless they're certified, and then they're protected in some ways, or if they're located in another wetland type. So if they're in a floodplain or if they're in a bordering vegetated wetland. But a lot of vernal pools are just out in the woods, not in another resource area, and they are not protected under the Wetlands Protection Act unless they're certified. So under the wetlands ordinance, they are automatically protected with a boundary 100 feet out from the high water line. So we're giving them a bit of a woodland buffer, giving those really important species that utilize those vernal pools an opportunity to get there without, just immediately walking across pavement. And we presume them significant to habitat protection without breeding evidence required. The breeding evidence requirement of vernal pools is challenging because it really only can be determined in a few months of the year, really 2 months of the year, we can acquire that breeding evidence. So they are presumed significant. That presumption, of course, can be overcome if an applicant can adequately show that this particular pool is not working, it's not serving as a vernal pool. But our presumption is significant.
This must be the very quick order picture.
Our next resource area is the buffer zone. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, 100 feet out from every resource area except riverfront and land subject to flooding has essentially an advisory 100-foot buffer zone that the Conservation Commission reviews projects within, but can't directly protect or regulate. Under the wetlands, the proposed wetlands ordinance, it adds a 100-foot regulated zone, but that 100 feet is really separated into two 50-foot chunks. The inner 50-foot buffer zone is a no disturb zone, which with few exceptions, namely through a relief process, with those few exceptions, otherwise it is a fully no disturb. So that area will not be impacted by projects, similar to the way that other resource areas are required to be held as no disturb. The outer 50-foot of the buffer zone is a limited work area. So I encourage anyone who's interested to look directly in the language of the ordinance, or we're happy to answer questions about what exactly is included there. It involves certain stormwater features. It involves the addition of specific impervious surface if all of its stormwater is managed. There's some limited work that can occur in that outer 50-foot. And with the buffer zone in particular, relief is possible if the alternatives, so if, building the driveway, 50 feet to the east is actually much worse for the resource area. So the commission will certainly consider relief when necessary. Another change included in the proposed wetlands ordinance is we require a climate impact narrative that asks residents to consider consider a couple different climate impacts and ways to reduce climate impacts within the scope of their project. So, 4 of those areas are how they're going to adequately protect their project from storm and flood damage, how they might consider adding additional resilient plantings, how they might address local heating and cooling, and how they might address carbon sequestration and storage. Note here that this is really a narrative section, and depending on the complexity of the project, a vast, multi-stage development versus a single family homeowner, the commission will be looking for very different things here. The idea is to get the applicant thinking about their project within the larger climate change narrative and how their specific project might contribute to local urban heat islands, or might be adding a lot of non-native plantings, and to get them to reconsider and to think about it in the context of climate change. A couple things we didn't make changes to. We didn't make any changes to the riverfront area, to the broader resource area of land underwater, or the resource area of bank. We added no changes to the timelines, the hearing process, or most of our procedures. The idea really was to make this as smooth and easy as possible for applicants while adding some extra protections. So we added a simple additional form that will cover new resource areas, but we'll keep that form all on the same timelines as the Wetlands Protection Act. We have a couple modest additional fees, and we have an ability to fine if enforcement orders are not complied with. And we can require a wildlife assessment if the commission determines an area to be significant for wildlife habitat. And needs that included as part of a project. But generally, the procedures are designed to be to work in tandem with the existing Wetlands Protection Act as tightly as possible, and to not create any undue extra burdens on the applicant. And now we'll take any questions you might have, and happy to go back to the slides. And
how are you predicting future rainfall?
Would you introduce yourself for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Joanne Luce here. How do you predict future rainfall?
So the state through what do they call it these days?
I think it's trash.
I know, I'm forgetting the exact resource name or the body that created this, but through the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, developed projections for the entire state of Massachusetts that are pretty specific. They get down at least to the town level, if not more detailed. And so they're using global climate models and then have scaled those down to the state level. So there is a resource that folks can turn to for the state of Massachusetts to get those projections.
the current tool is called Resilient Mass.
Thank you.
Maps and Data Center. But it's created by EEA and Energy and Environmental Affairs. And we did write the ordinance with some flexibility that should this tool not be made available, the most relevant tool would be the one to sub in here.
No. So this would apply to residential and commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone wants to do something to say they own 3 acres, do they have to go through anything special if they own 3 acres and wanna, I don't know, just do something different with it?
So this is all about proximity to these resource areas. So it really depends on what they have on their property. If those 3 acres include a wetland or they include a stream, then the wetlands ordinance here would come into effect.
Okay, that one. So you're probably all familiar with the town lodging. And when you face it off to the left, there's that treat area that's like a vernal pool. So pretty soon it's just going to be like screaming with peepers. How is that protected? What that you all have would protect that every spring?
Currently or under the proposed ordinance?
Okay.
No, that's what I'm asking. Sorry. Currently or under the proposed ordinance is your question?
Currently and future.
Totally. So I believe the wetland that you're speaking of next to the town lodging house is a bordering vegetated wetland. There's a stream that runs through it.
Yeah.
So currently it's protected as a bordering vegetated wetland. And it's protected, you know, by the Wetlands Protection Act. The buffer zone of that bordering vegetated wetland is substantially less protected now than it would be under our ordinance.
What started your new ordinance? Like, what prompted you all to do something different and more comprehensive?
So I joined the commission in 2007, and the commission had a bylaw when the town was a town, and then it got converted to an ordinance, and then it got dropped in the late 1990s, early 2000s. But when I got on the commission, there was a lot of the developers in town remembered the days of having an ordinance and bylaw and kind of adhered to it anyways, because they knew that's what the commission was looking for in terms of protection. And so like the 50-foot no disturb area buffer zone that we have in this ordinance is something that was in the old ordinance, for example. So, but as time passed and, you know, different people started doing projects in town, people kind of forgot that that's what we were looking for, and we had no enforcement power for it anyways. So most of the time that I've been on the commission for that whole period, we would start being like, okay, what do we need to do to get the ordinance reinstituted so that we can return to having those protections? But so it would start and stop, and it's basically been doing that for the last 20 years, essentially, efforts to redo it. But now we've had a concerted push to do it with the development pressures that Eva mentioned at the beginning. And it kind of spurned us along with having people to work on it to get it together.
One more question.
Yeah, please. These are great.
Okay, so Park Hill Road is Easthampton. Okay, I'm talking about Park Hill Road as where Oliver is. What does the Conservation Commission, there was a beaver dam, and that beaver dam was gone, and then the swamp dried up, and then a beaver dam came back again, and it was all lush, and then somebody broke the dam, like the lodge, and then someone is twice they broke the dam that was holding the water back that the beavers had built. What does that involve you? Do you care? Like, do we care like who did that?
So it's possible, and I don't know if you know anything about this specific situation. Sometimes beaver dams are breached under a permit through the Board of Health because of concerns with safety or public health concerns. I have no idea if that happened in this instance, and I have no idea if that's common with our particular Board of Health. But if it was not permitted, it was not permitted through this commission. And if it was not permitted elsewhere through the Board of Health, then it was probably a wetlands violation that we simply don't know about.
Because I saw a Smith College van there twice, and someone that looked like a professor with maybe 4 to 6 students, and they were standing there, and he was, you know, gesturing, and it seemed like there was like a class going on after the dam had been I mean, it wasn't natural. If you go and you walk over there and you crawl over the guardrail, it's been, you know, man-made damage. Mm-hmm. And then the beavers rebuilt it and it was done again. But I saw the Smith College van there twice. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out, because it's you know, at the very beginning of Park Hill, there's like nothing there that it was disturbing. So
is it at the place where Park Hill and Oliver turn off?
Yeah, right there, that first little bridge. It's off to the left as you're going up the hill. And yeah, it's been on and off for years, but it came back, and then humans broke the dam down, and so the lodge fell apart again. But I just wondered why that happened. It's like
Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody knows. Yeah, no, none of us in the neighborhood know what the heck happened either.
Was the lodge, the thing that appeared to be man-made, like lodge destruction?
It wasn't the lodge that was dismantled, it was
The dam itself. Gotcha.
The dam, which is literally right off where the guardrail is. You can just stand in the street and see it.
Was that this year that you said?
Last year
Last year. Okay.
and the year before, like it was over a period of about a year and a half.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Is that an agricultural property? Could it have been an agriculturally exempt, like?
Well, I think if I'm thinking about the right location, that's the town lodging farm.
It looks
So
like there's
that's the
farmland on
same-
both sides of that street.
Yeah, it's the side that the lodging farm is on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
I-
it's park, because the cows are over here, Park Hill and the orchards.
Right. So unless the farmer that the city had leased the land to dismantled the dam.
Because it was flooding, maybe farmland or something.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
mean-
it would have been something you would have been concerned about, taking down a beaver lodge.
Yeah, that would have
Okay,
been,
that's good to know.
that would have been
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Have
have
to me in the future about it. It's your
Sure.
fault, you told me.
good.
Yeah, I would just add to your previous question, when we were permitting a number of those large development, well, over the years, but especially in that boom, when we were permitting a lot of them, we would hear frequently from residents who were concerned that we weren't doing more to protect resource areas. And we would repeatedly have to say, we don't have a city ordinance, and so we're following the state laws. So there's been a lot of concern over the years about residents who are wanting to see greater protections. So that was also a driver for what we're doing. We also hear a lot repeatedly from residents who, decades ago, their neighborhood was built by filling in wetlands, and they're having problems with flooding in their basements. And so that's also a driver here is wanting to make sure that we're not going to put people in harm's way in the future. And so that we're making sure that our regulations keep them out of the floodplain and out of where we expect the future floodplain to be.
Good, thank you.
I wish more of those residents were here.
I know.
We really appreciate you coming. Yeah.
Would you have done this if I wasn't sitting here?
Yes, it's being recorded, so it'll be available for folks regardless, but
Yeah, we're doing this one more time, right?
We are.
And then there's gonna be a city council discussion.
If there was
Different-
supposed to be 2 meetings, is it going to be a repeat of this one?
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't have to come to the next one?
yeah, no, please, if you know other folks who are interested, send them.
Someone else?
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
Not on this, on something you talked about earlier. But that's okay, I don't, but not on this, no, I'm good.
Awesome. All right. Well, as we just said, we'll do this one more time on April 13th. Hopefully we'll have some more members of the public. Thank you, Commissioner Carr, for sharing it on Facebook today. I feel like maybe in advance of the April 13th meeting, if anyone wants to reshare the flyer from the city's Facebook page. Yeah, and then I'll keep you all posted. I don't know when the ordinance meeting, it was announced, at the March 18th, city council meeting. I was there. I spoke about, these information sections as well. It was after a very hearty discussion of short-term rentals. So there was not that many people left in the room. It did.
Warmed down.
It was maybe 9 p.m.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know that city council meeting went till 10:30.
Yeah.
So that was a hearty one. Thank you to our hardworking city councilors. But they have a short-term rental ordinance, not related to this committee. There we go. So anyways, I will let you all know when we are scheduled for our time at ordinance. And we will do this one more time on April 13th here.
Sounds good.
I'm sure when we have a big controversial project after we have an ordinance, we'll hear all about what's wrong with the
That's
ordinance.
correct.
Yeah, sure. All right. That is everything on our agenda. Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is 6:59. We are concluding tonight's meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. Our next meeting will be on April 13th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.